our webpage, and you can leave us a comment. If you have any comments for our specific guests, we forward each and every one of them. You can also log on to your regular email and email me here at the show. That's tcn_IYC at comcastnetwork.com. You can also find us on Facebook, MySpace, and YouTube. Okay, so obviously this discussion so far has centered around President Obama, and it was a historic election at the beginning of this year when he took office, particularly as the first African-American man to do so. Let's talk about some of the other things that have happened with him in office and how they've affected the general public. The economy certainly has to be, again, for 2009, one of the top stories of this year, much like it was at the end of 2008. Was it better or worse as the year comes to a close?
There's a stabilization of sorts, but it very much depends upon what your role in the economy is. People are the people who produce the lion's share of jobs in this country are small business. They are very concerned as to the tax structure that's being created and also the debt structure. The Obama administration decided that government would pick the winners and losers in the economy through the stimulus, as opposed to having a broad-based tax cut so that you have a larger number of people with more money. Now, again, the president's approach is, I had to move quickly, get a lot of jobs on, I'll do it through states and government. Small business is saying, but you're killing me through tax.
Let's be clear here. President Bush, when he had an opportunity in 8 years, increased spending. And I understand there are a lot of other issues that contributed to spending hikes, but across the board did not cut spending to complement the tax cuts. And the tax cuts only represented the wealthiest 1% of Americans. Let me back up. 1%, the wealthiest 1%. So the middle class got screwed for the last 8 years. Now we're trying to make up for that. And, it's not so easy. Now I think you're going to see in the next budget, you're going to see a lot of fiscal discipline. He had no choice but to spend money on the stimulus package. We'd be in the hole even deeper had he not done that. And, it affects every sector across the board if he hadn't done that.
Do you characterize the economy in 2009 as how? Good, bad, indifferent?
I agree with Ed. It's stable.
Stable.
And it was due to his leadership, President Obama's leadership, that we were able to say that.
So does that mean as we move into 2010 that we should be optimistic about the economy and the continuation of the stabilization or even a full recovery?
I'm going to try to be optimistic. As a small business owner, looking at what he's talking about, taxes and also health care, that's an issue for me, to do what he wants to do as far as legislation. So I'm trying to be very optimistic about this will hopefully get better. But as far as trying to hire more people, as small businesses do, as you were alluding to, that's going to be real difficult. We are the ones that hire people to keep the economy going. It's going to be difficult for me to do that, being in healthcare and the things that we do.
Now, you mentioned healthcare. Certainly we can't talk about the year in review if we don't talk about healthcare, although that could dominate the entire conversation. But will we see some resolution to this ongoing concern as we start the new year?
I think you will see some form of healthcare reform being passed with different elements of the different bills that have been merged in the Senate and the House. And I think some of the key elements of those bills will pass, like the elimination of pre-existing conditions. Very significant. Do you know that in 8 states, women can be discriminated against if they were victims of domestic violence? They can be denied health care. Several insurance companies have policies that deny police and firefighters this from receiving health care. This is a very significant issue. Furthermore, if you're a small business owner with a payroll of $500,000 or less, you are not impacted at all from a tax perspective. Rather, you're given a subsidy to purchase insurance.
And once again, not to be partisan about this, but the reality is there has not been any leadership on the other side of the aisle on this. The Democrats have actually taken a lead in this. President Obama said he was going to do something on it. We didn't sit back and wait. We're actually trying to solve the problem. The Republicans have yet to offer one positive, substantive solution about health care.
I'm going to give the
That's why I'm saying we're against it.
Republicans an opportunity to offer their perspective. But first, I'm going to take a break. If you want to hear what Ed and Renee have to say about health care and the future of it in this country, you're going to have to come back. We'll take a quick break, but when we return, we will continue our discussion about the year in review. How will you characterize and remember 2009, and what's ahead and in store for us in 2010? Stay with us. It's Your Call continues right after this.
Transportation for It's Your Call guests provided by Preferred Car and Limousine.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Lynn Doyle, and every year at this time of the year, we always take a look back on the year that just passed and also preview the upcoming year and get your take on how you will characterize the past year and what you're hoping for in the new one. I have a great panel here with me joining us to talk about that. Of course, some of the topics that were of interest in 2008 when we did this show resurfaced during this discussion, and I have a feeling that if and when we do it again next year, they will be there as well, including health care, which is what we were talking about right before we took the break. The Republicans have a different take on health care reform and the progress or lack thereof that's been made.
Well, certainly they do, and there was a plan by Paul Ryan, congressman who submitted this plan, could not get the White House to respond to it, couldn't get a meeting with the president. And I find it interesting in the way the president wanted the Democratic House plan passed in August. And then people started to find out what was in it. And the president, in trying to sell his plan, was saying things like the following. Instead of treating conditions, doctors perform amputations because they can get $50,000 to take a leg as opposed to treating your diabetes. Well, he spoke these words, and not once, but many times, and it's just flat out false. But it also demonizes doctors.
Absolutely.
And through the demonization of the health insurance companies, doctors, the medicine companies, the pharmaceutical guys, this doesn't get us any closer to where we need to be to have portability of insurance, get rid of pre-existing conditions, compete across state lines, all the sorts of things that are in the Paul Ryan plan, which the CBO has scored as being more budgetarily responsible than anything the Democrats have.
So we have done something.
Well, I don't know what that is, because I just had a personal situation recently with a family member of mine, and I got to see health care reform and the need for it up front and personal. And it was very disappointing to see how the system, the insurance companies have more power than doctors in making life decisions about patients. And, it's disappointing to see that the Republican Party have had 8 years to do something. And actually, when they had the majority in the Congress to get something done about health reform, meaningful reform, where was the leadership? Where were they? They were nowhere to be found. And that's why I think it's disingenuous for you to sit here today and say, well, wait a second, we don't like what the president proposed. Okay, where have you been? Seriously, where have you been?
We proposed things. There is a plan. You said there was no plan.
I'll tell you what the plan is.
I'll tell you what the bottom line is that they didn't want to hear the plan. They didn't hear the plan. No. That's definitely not true.
Folks at home, you can go onto the web, you can look up Paul Ryan's plan, you can see what it was.
See, that's part of it again. The whole PR piece. You all act like we're not doing anything, like we're not crossing out. We have been. So don't keep saying that we haven't. That's because people aren't allowing us to come and do what we have to.
Pick up a newspaper for the last several months.
The president did not want to hear it. The White House didn't want to deal with it.
Some of the Republican leadership, the Senate and the House, have said about health care reform. Not one plan. All they do is say it's negative, it's bad, it's socialism, it's silly.
I'd like to throw a couple of facts. Senator Inhofe said that he would oppose the bill without even reading it. He said that on the record in his local paper at one of his town hall meetings. He also said that this would be great for Republicans because it'll be huge gains if they break Obama. Break Obama. If you want to break someone, if you believe that it's going to be someone's Waterloo, then you are not negotiating in good faith with that person. If I'm sitting across the room as a small business owner and I know that the person across the table from me has said behind my back they want to break me, or on the record, then clearly they're being obstructionist.
But maybe we ought to listen to what Mitch McConnell, the Senate minority leader, has said, the man in the leadership position, who invited the president to come in and to discuss this, but not to do things like create a skewed system where you've got this public option where if your employer chooses not to cover anymore, you don't have a